The Los Angeles Dodgers are one win away from the World Series. Mookie Betts has a big day. Shohei Ohtani gets on base and scores a bunch of runs. And the Dodgers are on the cusp of getting back to the World Series. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day, and you can make that easier on yourself by subscribing and get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live, like we are here on Thursday night on YouTube. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. My name is Vince Samperio. I'm usually joined by Jeff Snyder, who's my co-host. Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have been covering the team for a decade now, and we've been doing this podcast here for 6 of those 10 seasons, or maybe 11 seasons if you count it. And we've done a lot of things regarding the Dodgers. We've covered them. We've written about them. We've talked to them. We've been in the press box. We've been in the locker room. And we're here to bring all that to you and hopefully make you a better Dodger fan as we become better Dodger fans in the process, or more knowledgeable Dodger fans. We all are great Dodger fans in regards to ourselves. So give yourself a clap or a pat on the back or whatever you want to do, because the Dodgers, our beloved Dodgers, are one win away from the World Series. There was a lot of people that maybe didn't believe the Dodgers would get to this point, and the job's not finished. Let's by all means, we'll use Kobe's famous line, "Job's not finished." But the Dodgers have put themselves in position to get back to the World Series for the first time since 2020, and it was another runaway game. As I see the word Craig used right now, runaway game. Yeah, another one. Like the 3 wins the Dodgers have had have been games that ended up not being stressful. Like we always ask for games that aren't stressful, and some of these have had some stressful moments in the beginning, but then by the time we get to the 7th, 8th inning, there's no more stress, and we're just sitting there waiting for the Dodgers to win, like just counting the outs down until the Dodgers get that win. And it's been a fun series in that regard, and we're still one Landon Knack bat inning away from maybe having a sweep. Like this could have been a celebration episode, even more so than it is right now. But we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about what happened tonight and what's going to happen in Game 5, or what is planned to happen in Game 5. And yeah, it's just so much fun to see the Dodgers play this way because Jeff so famously said if the Dodgers score 9 runs every game, then they're going to win the World Series. And they haven't scored 9 runs every game, but this series specifically, every win has been 8 runs or more. So it's pretty close to that. And it's just been from so many different places and so many different players. And I think that's the biggest part of this. We'll talk about Mookie and Shohei specifically in the next segment, but you even look at this game and you look at Teoscar Hernandez still doesn't have a hit in the series, but yet the Dodgers are up 3-1 in the series, and Teoscar was a big reason why they won the NLDS. And it's just a sign of how deep this team is. You had Kike Hernandez continuing to do what he does, another 2 hits, another RBI. You have Tommy Edman, who's been great all postseason, another couple hits, 3 RBI. Like it's been a lot of different guys. Max Muncy had a string of 12 consecutive plate appearances where he reached base, and he said he didn't even know about the streak. So, stuff like that. Still not getting a lot from Will Smith, but as long as the pitching staff is holding things down and the rest of the offense is doing what they've been doing, you're just going to take what you can get from Will Smith, which hasn't been much, but he's contributed in 2 different games. And if you've won thus far the Dodgers have won 6 games. Will Smith has been a contributor in 2 of those games. You'll take that, and it's not always going to be pretty. Chris Taylor, was in the lineup, and even he got on base, and was a catalyst of one of the innings for the Dodgers putting up some runs. So it was a collective effort up and down, and obviously on the pitching side, we'll talk about that because you have Yamamoto, who started the game and looked really sharp early on, and then was really sharp. I mean, through 4 1/3 innings, Yamamoto had 8 strikeouts, did have a few hits given up, just the 1 walk, a couple runs, was only at 73 pitches when he came out. And, you could argue that the Dodgers could have left him in, and I don't think you'd be wrong in that assessment. But what I'm going to talk about later as well is Dave Roberts is having himself a postseason, and right now it's hard to question a lot of the moves he's making, and not just because of him making those moves, but also the guys coming through for him. It's always a matter, it's a delicate tightrope to walk when you make a decision. Once you make that decision, it's out of your hands. You're hoping that your guy is going to get the job done, and so far the Dodgers, for the most part, have gotten that job done, especially in the last, even with the loss in the last 6 games, the Dodgers have won 5 of them, and in dominant fashion 3 of them, and in shutout fashion 4 of them. So it's been all around effort, and even tonight, you look at, we talked about the up and down the lineup, but then you go to the bullpen. Evan Phillips gives you 4 straight outs. You have Blake Triney giving you 4 outs, and then you have the offense putting you far enough ahead to where game 3 ends with Ben Casparius throwing 2 innings, and game 4 ends with Edgardo Henriquez throwing two straight innings, and not allowing to run. The first time I think he's pitched that he hasn't allowed a run, or at least if not the first time, then maybe the second time. But either way, it's been exactly what the Dodgers needed if they were going to get to a World Series, and they're not there yet, but they're close to it. And it took all 26 men on the roster. Even Kevin Kiermaier, who hasn't gotten a chance to get at the plate, but he's contributed. He made a catch in the outfield. Maybe Austin Barnes could be the one that you say hasn't necessarily contributed, but I'm sure he's part of the game planning, and I'm sure he's in sync with getting in sync with Will Smith, and being part of those pitching plans, and kind of figuring out what to do, how to attack, where to throw, and all that type of stuff. So it's been fun, and it's fun to see the other guys there, like Clayton Kershaw, Tyler Glasnow, Brusdar Graterol, all those guys still in the dugout, traveled all the way to New York to be with the team, and not that they don't have to, but they kind of don't have to, but they can, and they did, and they have, and it's been great to see all that. So it's been a great series to this point. 3 blowout victories, 1 victory where they were 1 swing away from at least tying it, and you have to like the Dodgers' chances now going into Game 5 to close this out in New York. You have Jack Flaherty on the mound. You have a guy that shut down this Mets team a couple days ago, and you have a guy ready to pitch the Dodgers to a World Series, and that's, you can't ask for much more than that, on top of the offense and what they've been giving them, and on top of the Mets, who are now in flux. Their guy who started Game 1, Kodai Senga, he's not going to start this game. He's going to maybe be available out of the pen. The guy that the Dodgers also got to in Game 1, which is Peterson, he's now getting the start. And, and the Mets have had to throw a lot of bullpen arms the last few days. Maybe not, Edwin Diaz has only pitched in Game 2, and Ryan Stanek, I think, only in Game 2, but all the other arms, you're going to need to piece together a lot of outs as the Mets tomorrow. And all these guys that you've used, the Dodgers have seen a couple times and got to. There's almost no reliever they haven't at least got to something. So it's a great position to be in, and it's been quite a run so far for this Dodger team, and they still have 1 more win to get to where they want to get to, and 4 more wins after that to complete what they want to complete. But we're going to talk about the stars of the show. We talked about Muncy, we talked about Edman, and we talked about Kiki, and those guys all deserve segments for sure. But we said if the Dodgers are going to get anywhere this postseason, if they're going to win a lot of these games, it's going to come down to the stars at the top of the order, and that's what those stars did today. Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts had big contributions to this win, so we're going to talk about that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Hims. Sometimes those intimate moments can happen spontaneously, maybe after a big Dodger win, who knows? And you always want to be ready when it's time to perform in the bedroom. And that's what Hims is here for, because it's giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. If you ever feel like you need that boost, it's time to stop worrying, because worrying just makes you stress, and stress just makes you more worried. And boom, 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 boom. And now, you're in a position that you don't want to be in, but you can be in that position that you do want to be in, or maybe multiple positions if you get Hims, because you can feel confident knowing you can get hard and stay hard whenever you're in the mood. There's no insurance needed. One low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. It's as easy as logging on to the site, answering a series of questions, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for those uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just these uncomfortable reads about me saying you getting hard and ED and all that type of stuff. So with hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with the healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day or your last listen of the day, because it's Thursday night right now, almost 10 p.m. And, we got some people here in the chat, and we appreciate you. And if you're listening on Friday morning, we appreciate you as well, because we appreciate all our listeners, especially as the Dodgers have taken us all the way into October 17th, guaranteed to take us all the way until, next week of October, if the worst case scenario happens. But best case scenario is the Dodgers win on Friday. They celebrate in New York, and then they come back home and get ready for whoever they're gonna play in the postseason. In the American League, it looked like the Guardians were going to take back a win and make it a 2-1 series. And then the Yankees, Aaron Judge faced Emmanuel Clase and hit a 2-run homer to tie the game. Giancarlo Stanton hit another home run right after that to take the lead. They ended up adding a run in the ninth inning. And then in the bottom of the ninth, the Guardians, John Kenzie Noel hit an absolute bomb to tie the game with 2 outs in the ninth inning. And then in the 10th inning, David Fry, Guardians All-Star, if you didn't know, hit a walk-off home run. So now it's a 2-1 series over there. The Guardians have 2 more games at home. So we shall see what happens in that end. But we're not worried about that until the Dodgers get their side of the job done, which can happen on Friday. And it can happen a lot easier if they have a game like they did in Game 4, especially when it comes to the top of the order. Now, we had Shohei Ohtani lead off the game with a home run, his first hit that didn't have a runner on base. And then Shohei Ohtani walked 3 more times, scored 4 runs total, and set the table for Mookie Betts, who had 4 hits, one of those being a home run, 3 runs scored, 4 RBI, and had himself a day. And it was interesting to see. Obviously Ohtani led off the game with the home run, second pitch of the game. And then after that, it didn't seem like the Mets were trying to pitch to Ohtani very hard. It didn't seem like they were trying to get him out if he wasn't going to chase the pitches they were throwing. I would say at least one of those walks that he had was an intentional walk, maybe a couple. And, Mookie Betts, as we know, it does not take kindly to having someone intentionally walked in front of him, even if it's in the unintentional way. And, he made the Mets pay. He had the 2-run double, and then he had the 2-run homer, and then added a couple more hits to keep on going. And it was the exact type of game you need, especially considering Freddie Freeman was not in the starting lineup. He was given the day off. And, it made sense. We talked about them potentially giving Freddie this game off anyways, just to, 1, to get a day off, and 2, because it was against Jose Quintana, and Freddie hasn't necessarily hit lefties that well this season. So it was kind of the perfect match. There is a conversation to have if you think Freddie should sit 1 more game, but I don't think there's any way Freddie's going to sit out a potential game where the Dodgers can clinch a spot to go to the World Series. So I expect him to be in the lineup and give the Dodgers all he can, because if he does play and the Dodgers do win, then they have, more than a few days off for Freddie to get right. So we appreciate that. And if the Dodgers get out to a big lead again, they can always have Freddie sit after that and, ice his ankle as they get the champagne on ice, if that happens to be what goes down in Game 5. But either way, yeah, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts. It's been a collection of everyone contributing in this postseason, but now it comes down to these are the guys that need to carry you. Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, getting you to the point of the cusp of a World Series berth and into a World Series. And I think Mookie obviously, Shohei obviously is kind of a weird anomaly. We said it's pretty hard to go for 22 as a major league caliber player. Very hard to do so if you're Shohei Ohtani. So I think that's a little bit of fluke, maybe a little bit of pressing, whatever the case is. But for Mookie, as someone who's, this is Shohei's first go around, so there's not much to compare to in the sense of postseason specifically. But for the Dodgers and for Mookie Betts, like he's been around the last two postseasons where things didn't go the Dodgers' way and things didn't go Mookie's way at all. Like, Mookie had no hits last year in the 3 games in the NLDS, and that, weighed on him as much as people maybe think that it didn't weigh on him, or that they, some of his comments, they drive nice cars too, or whatever it was. Like, Mookie Betts cares, and the way you don't need to know how much Mookie Betts cares as a fan. You just have to assume like that's the case. But he's been very out there with what's been going on, especially a couple slumps in the first 2 games of the NLDS, and then he said he took 300 400 swings to get ready for those next games, and he's continued to do that. He's continued to take multiple hundreds of swings in order to get right, and that's the dedication. And he mentioned, like, this is not something I can do in a regular season because you'd burn yourself out, but in the postseason, when there's you're gonna have a day off every 2 or 3 days, and when you're only playing 1 game and you're literally giving your all every single game, then yeah, you can do that. And Mookie's been working, and a 4-hit game with a home run, that's rewarding that hard work. And we appreciate him as Dodger fans and as baseball fans, and you can only hope that everyone has that kind of hard work and dedication. And for the Dodgers, I think there's a team full of it, and none of these guys are satisfied with having rough outings, rough games, and I think it's shown itself in even the pitching as well. Like, Yoshinobu Yamamoto had a really bad first game of the postseason, and then he's had 2 pretty good games. Walker Buehler had a bad experience in his first game of the postseason, and then had a great experience in the second game. Jack Flaherty had a pretty mid first game in his experience for the postseason, and then had a really great game in Game 1 of this series. So I think nobody wants to be the guy that fails for this team. And I think when you have 26 players all collectively working toward the same goal, but also not wanting to fail, you have 26 guys that are working, their behinds off in order to get to that point. And I think it's a great thing to see. And the Dodgers, Dave Roberts has said it a few times, and this will kind of lead into the next segment of talking about Dave Roberts, of how much he thinks, he's praised his team in a few different ways, not just for the talent, but for the getting through everything, fighting the adversity, having the want and the passion and everything else. And I don't think it's to say that other teams in the past haven't had it, but I do think this team, for maybe the first time in a while, had a chip on their shoulder, and that chip grew bigger when they went down 2-1 against the Padres, when the Padres were having a lot more fun, and you had people, Max Muncy remembered that there was one Athletic article where 22 people chose the Padres to advance to the NLCS, and only 5 guys chose the Dodgers to advance to the NLCS, and he remembered that, and he made it known during the champagne celebration in the NLDS. So I think these guys, you combine that with Shohei Ohtani, who's in his first postseason, you combine that with Michael Kopech and Tommy Edman, and, well, not Jack Flaherty, because he would have been in the postseason maybe if he had stayed with his team, but like Tommy Edman and Michael Kopech would have been sitting at home right now if they weren't traded to the Dodgers. And, they have that hunger. They have young guys that have that hunger. They have guys that want the redemption stories in Mookie and Freddie a little bit. And you have a lot of different combining energies that have gotten the Dodgers to this point and hopefully propel them to a World Series victory. So, but it's all starts and I don't want to say starts and ends, but it definitely starts with the leadership at the top, and that's Dave Roberts, and that's who we're going to talk about next because he's had a great postseason so far, and he's made a lot of moves that have been more gut than numbers or analytics, and as much people want to bring that up, and I think it's been working out for him, and it definitely deserved to be talked about. So Dave Roberts again talked about next, and make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, and it's also available in over 30 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. And it's very easy. All you got to do on Prize Picks is find one player, find his stat that's attached to it, and you pick more or less on that stat. And if you do that with two separate players, that's called a lineup. And when you have a lineup, you can submit that with an amount of money, and you can see how much money you would win if both of those things happen. And boom, if both of those things happen, you do well. If you had Shohei Ohtani more than 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs combined, and Mookie Betts more than 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs combined, which is what they both were last night, and you had put those together and put $5 on it, you probably would have won like $15. So it's as easy as that. And you can build all the way up to 6 players in your lineup. And it's not just baseball. There's pretty much any other sport you could think of is on there in terms of basketball and football and even e-gaming or gaming, esports, and all that type of stuff. It's all on there. So right now, go to Prize Picks or download the Prize Picks app, check it all out. And they're giving you special right now. If you download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB, you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. So, game 5. Say you believe in Ohtani, you believe in Mookie Betts, and you believe in Jack Flaherty. Go look up some stats for all those guys. Pick more or less on all those stats. Put together a lineup. Put $5, and boom, you got $50 instantly if you use the code LOCKEDONMLB when you download the Prize Picks app. So check out right now. Prize Picks, run your game. Want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one, if you're not one, you can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. We appreciate you if you do become one. Remember, you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Those are two 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. The Locked On Dodgers postcast with host Pete Fox is available live on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel after every Dodger game, now in the postseason, and on our audio feed after that. So make sure to check out Pete. He's bringing some energy as well as the Dodgers make this October run. And you can go beyond the podcast, come a Locked On Dodgers Insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can get text from us with any updates and things of that nature as the Dodgers continue on. It's not just in October, but it'll continue on. But, obviously right now is a good time to begin updates on the Dodgers. So, all right, let's talk about Dave Roberts. And, one thing that's been missing from this chat a little bit or all of our comments has been the Fire Dave Roberts comments. Maybe after game 2 of this Mets series, it was there, but definitely haven't seen it much recently. And that's because, one, the Dodgers are winning and, winning cures all, but also because, they may be winning because of Dave Roberts or getting put in better position to win because of Dave Roberts. Managers can only do so much. They make the decisions. The players are the ones that go out there and act on it and make the manager look good or bad. But there's been a few times this postseason specifically that Roberts has made decisions that, one, he wouldn't have made in the regular season, and two, probably go against what the numbers say or what the analytics say in terms of having the best most optimal chance of winning. And one of those decisions came in this game when, Dave Roberts, Evan Phillips came out for a second inning of work, or after up down one, not a full second inning, but he came out and got into a little bit of trouble and he left them out there. And, he had Anthony Anthony Banda warmed up, ready to go. And, they brought up Jeff McNeil, who's a left-handed hitter. And once that was announced, you thought, okay, here comes Banda. And no, Dave Roberts stuck with Evan Phillips. And, Evan Phillips got the out he needed. And then, Blake Trinan comes in. And Blake Trinan has been a guy that's been closing out a lot of games for the Dodgers. But this was the biggest point of the game to that point. And you don't get into the later innings without getting through those earlier innings. And it was the perfect time to bring him in, because I think the biggest thing that's been different for Roberts a lot of this postseason has been squashing any momentum from the other team and worrying about the rest of it later. And I think that's really what's been different this year, is that Dave Roberts has always been one to be very cautious, have a little bit of a plan, maybe work more on emotions rather than like gut feeling or having a little bit too much trust. But I think the trust that he's had this year has been different because it's been built in. These guys have done it, and it's not a trust of like, oh, Clayton Kershaw in 2019. He got you the one out. He should have came out of the game, but maybe you were crafting the narrative of Clayton Kershaw exercising playoff demons coming in, and it didn't work out. And Jansen, they maybe ran with Jansen a little too long at times, and in 2020 when he rid himself of that type of moment is when you had other guys closing out games and getting big outs for the Dodgers, and that's what he's done here. Like, I think the fact of no set closer has really helped the Dodgers. I know, as much as a lot of people didn't like it in the regular season, I've always been a fan of it because you put your best pitchers into positions when you can, and I think that's what Dave Roberts has done. He's putting guys in those positions to succeed and not letting the other team have any chance of success. There's been games where the Dodgers were up big, but he kept his main relievers in because you don't want to give the other team, you want to squash all passion, all intensity, all thoughts of a comeback or having a chance or anything like that. And that's what he's been doing. And then the Dodgers offense this series specifically has rewarded him by extending leads and letting him end games with guys that wouldn't normally pitch in these types of games. You have Ben Casparius finishing out game 3. You had Landon Knack finishing out game 4 of the last series. You had Edgardo Henriquez finishing out this game in game 4. And I think that's been the reward Dave Roberts has gotten for going for the kill in the game and not necessarily. And, there's going to be maybe a game where it doesn't work out. And there's going to be a game, maybe where he does burn Evan Phillips and Blake Trinan in the 6th inning. And then you get to the 9th inning and you don't necessarily have one of your high leverage arms. And then, you put yourself in a stressful moment, but you have to kill all rallies at all points of the game because they're all matter in that moment. And you can manage having foresight, but you also can manage knowing that in the moment is the most important time. And 3 innings later is important 3 innings later, but not in the moment. And I think in the regular season, completely agree with how they do things in the sense of putting, the players ahead of the moment. So, if a pitcher, you take him out with 80 pitches, sometimes that happens. If you don't let a reliever go back to back, but you lose one game in August, that's just the nature of the beast. But here, you don't need to do that because with all the off days built in, you should have enough. And with the way you've managed the team to this point, you've got it set up for you. Game 2 was, not the best moment for Roberts, but it wasn't all on him. It was the fact of the matter is they didn't have the high leverage arms available to have an entire real bullpen game. So they wanted to get a few outs out of Landon Knack. Landon Knack didn't give him those outs. And then, they didn't really use any of their high leverage guys the rest of the game because they were losing. And even when they got close enough, you're putting it on your offense. Hey, offense, you get me within a run, 2 runs, I'll deploy the guys that we need to deploy and we'll go for this win. But if not, let me try to get by with some of these other guys. And, Brent Honeywell rewarded him with 3 scoreless innings in that game. And the Dodgers did have those chances and it just didn't come to fruition. But, from that game came game 3 where the Dodgers were able to use, Kopech early in the game. They were able to use, different guys early in that game, and then the offense, boom, put it out of harm's way. Bencast Berrios pitches last 2 innings, so that saved you Evan Phillips and Daniel Hudson and other guys for this game. You had Kopech and Trinan also available because they only threw a handful of pitches in Game 3. So now you had Game 4 where you could take Yamamoto out in the 5th inning, even though he was only at 73 pitches, because you have your whole Army bullpen of arms ready to go. And that was, from previous decisions. Now, again, there might be decisions that come in the future that don't work out that way. And yes, if there are decisions I don't agree with, I'll mention it on here. And if there are decisions I agree with, but the results weren't great, we'll definitely talk about it. But I do think that Roberts is managing this postseason a little bit differently than we've seen in the past. And I think it's working out for him, and his players are backing him up. And, we can talk a little bit about that in the sense of, when I wouldn't know if he would use the word fell on the sword, but, made all those comments about Manny Machado and tossing the ball over, aggressively tossing the ball over, I'll say, over to the Dodgers dugout, and it being unsettling and everything else. And, trying to take, he said, using that to take the pressure off his guys, and they rewarded and they got his back. And you can tell that this team respects him. You can tell that he respects his players. And obviously when you're winning, all works out well. So it looks a lot better when you're winning. And that's not a bad thing. Like it's not a bad thing for everything to look good when you're winning, because that means, boom, that you're in a good spot. And the Dodgers are in a great spot right now. 1 win away from the World Series. They have to win 1 more game out of the next 3 games. Preferably they just get it done in Game 5. And tomorrow night we're talking, having champagne and talking about the Dodgers playing in the World Series. But if not, the series would come back to Los Angeles, and Game 6 would be on Sunday. But hopefully we don't need to do all that. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate the chat going on. A lot of positive comments in there. Dodgers can get it done in Game 5. We'll be here after the game, regardless of what happens. Hopefully, celebrating the Dodgers' 4th World Series berth in the last 8 seasons. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and get notified when our episodes are ready. Become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. And, if you're not ready to commit to every day, just add 1 episode a week to your listening, and we'd appreciate that even more so. Remember, you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. The Locked On Dodgers postcast with host Pete Fox is available live after most Dodger games on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel, and in our audio feed after that. You can go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeff on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or if you're at home, tear your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.